We know that writing is a solitary affair. But then sometimes we do not see the work of the writer, but the writer is always working. Here with me on the set of oral tradition is Janet Naidu, born in Guyana, now lives in Canada, and she has produced 5 volumes of poetry along with other essays and biographies. Janet, welcome to the program Oral Tradition. Welcome to the program, Janet.
Thank you, Petamber.
Okay. And now I just said that you have produced 5 volumes of poetry. From the very first volume, Winged Heart, Along Many Roads. So between Winged Heart, and I must say that this was shortlisted for the Guyana Prize for Literature. So from Winged Heart to your 5th collection, what was Janet Naidu doing?
You mean writing and working and
Running.
just generally living in Canada, working and carrying on. I've been in the Guyanese community. I volunteered as well in the Guyana Independence Festival, which I co-chaired.
Yeah.
And in 2005, I formed the Pacoima Writers Association, where writers, emerging writers, can get the support we need with one another, and ongoing writing, of course, working towards sharing our works at public places like luncheons and dinners, and continue to write.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Let's just backtrack a little bit. Let's come back to Guyana. You talk about the organization that you founded, the Pacoima Writers Guild. All right. Were you part of any organization, any writers organization, when you were in Guyana?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I became part of the messenger group that was founded by the late Rajkumari Singh, who herself was a dramatist, a poet, an activist. And she was very involved in putting on plays at the Theatre Guild at the time to look at particularly the Indian cultural heritage.
Yeah.
There weren't that many. I mean, I know her mother also did some of the work, but she continued, and through her, I was inspired to be part of the messenger group and to write poetry.
Ah.
There were others as well, Mahday Das,
Yeah.
Elfrida Bisimber, who was an artist.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, she made some beautiful drawings for the heritage booklet. Henry Mutu was in the drama
Yes.
sector, and Ruplal Monar, who has gone on to have written several books.
Mm-hmm.
There was Gushka,
Yes.
and there were others who performed with Gaur Singh, Rajkumari's son, in dancing performances, like Jasoda Kishon and so on.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were others whose name, please forgive me if I don't remember as I get on now. But it was a vibrant group at Rajkumari Singh's home.
Yes.
That's where I got my inspiration.
In Lamaha Street, that it was?
Lamha Street.
Yeah.
And she produced 2 booklets. One was on the dancing primarily, the first one, and the second one was called Heritage 2. And some of the creative works created by Monar, Ruplal Monar. Rajkumari Singh, Mahadev Das, and that's where I had two of my, I would call, amateur poems
Ah,
published for the first time. But inspiration comes, and over time, I've been writing and thinking about Guyana, and I
uh-huh.
came to Canada in 1975. So I missed the continuity of the messenger group.
And
Um,
that's why,
that eventually,
mhm,
Rich Kumari Singh did some work with the National Service that created the Cultural Center,
mhm.
but I was not part of it. I had already left Guyana.
Okay.
And so I would continue to write when I came to Canada. But I do want to add something, Petamber,
Yes.
that before I joined that group, for several years as a teenager, saying my age, I I used to write to pen pals around the world.
Ah,
And, I used to have lots of letters from Germany, Pakistan, United States, New Zealand, and so on. So I was an avid writer of letters. So when I was encouraged by Rajkumari to write poetry, I felt that it came naturally. And so I wrote those two at the time.
yes. I noticed you mentioned uh, Mahadaidas, Rajkumari Singh, Lakshmi Kalicharan in your poetry. Could you expand a bit more on, well, the other day we had a forum on Mahadaidas. Can you expand on these writers, women writers?
Well, I would say that at the time I considered people like Rupla Monar
Mm-hmm.
much more in depth experienced in poetry and storytelling.
Yes.
And I looked up to them, and I looked up to people who were involved in the arts. But I got a little closer relationship with Mahadev Das when, at the time when Rajkumari Singh was about to publish the second book of, writings called Heritage 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she asked Mahadev and myself for poems to put in the booklet. And Mahadev had lived between Eccles and Craig, where her main family lived. And so she came to because we were supposed to take her poems. Those were the days we didn't send the poems by email. We took the poems in printed form. And my day came to my house. I lived in Covent Garden on the East Bank. And for us to go to Rajkumari's house. And I had my paper in my hand. She had hers. And we decided to share what we've written. And I don't have the actual poem with me right now, but when I read her poem, I was so impressed with the depth of her poetry. I told her that same night, that evening, how impressed I was. And in a way, because I knew that mine were simple poems, I said, well, I hope I could write like that someday, never thinking I'd continue. But I was so impressed with her writing and her brilliance. Yeah. And so the two of us traveled by hire car to Lamaha Street and visited Rajkumari with
Yeah.
our poems to put in the booklet. And actually, I do want to mention something a little bit more poignant. Is Mahadev was wearing a necklace, and I told her how beautiful it is, and she took it up and she put it over my head. She said, "You can have it."
Wow.
And it told me a lot about the person she was. I'll remember her as being very kind of a caring, considerate person. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that she was going to Indians at the time, I think. And I thought that, she's getting a lot of higher education. And that's really wonderful that, her poetry was so beautiful when she read it to me.
Mm, mm, mm-hmm. Yep, yep. Um, and we celebrated her work recently. But you have gone on, Janet, you have gone on compiling 5 collections of poetry. Congratulations. That's quite
Thank you, Petamber.
that's quite a handful for a female Guyanese artist. And you know, you have published glowing reviews, right? Like River Crossing brings a lyric of beauty and simplicity, of nostalgia for lost homes and landscapes and opportunity. Um, Deeply meditative, full of sorrow, reflective, and hope. These poems echo the song of Guyana, rivers, creek, thunder, bloodshed, perils, back the dam. Wow, some glowing tributes were paid to your first volume. Oh, if the poems in Winged Heart, Janet's first volume, disclosed an earnest desire to escape from colonial confinement, those in her second volume, Rainwater, revel in altogether more affectionate, balanced, and lyrical evocation of her bittersweet Guyanese past. And you talk about those bittersweet days in your poetry.
I found that when I was writing at the time, this was published in 1999.
Mm.
But before that, I used to have memories of growing up in Guyana. My father used to work in the sugarcane fields, and I would have these images of that life. And my mother used to sell greens in the market. So poems like The Weight of Sugarcane and
Ah.
Melting Land
Mm-hmm.
and so on really were reflecting that recollection of growing up in Covent Garden and the cane fields. Um, I found that migrating to Canada, you never really forget your homeland. You never forget where you were born.
Yeah.
And so that has stayed with me all the time throughout. While I'm adapting to life in Canada,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still remembering what it was like to grow up in Guyana, and it influenced my poetry. And further along, I remembered my grandparents. They were later arrivals. They came in 1915.
Oh,
So
that was late.
I
Uh-huh.
have to thank the Guyana Archive for a wonderful job that they have done in retaining records, and I was able to obtain some information about their arrival.
Mm-hmm.
And that also influenced me about descendants of a land, like from where people have come.
Yeah.
They've come from all over the globe. And Guyana is such a diverse country that coming to Canada, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, um, when the prime minister in the 70s opened up immigration to Canada, people came from all over.
Yeah.
But what I recognized was I already had that experience because we grew up in a diverse place. People
Yeah.
from all races,
That's true.
religion, different economic standards. So it's not like coming to an industrial country and find one group of people.
Ah.
That's what I wanted to add, that it helped to influence me to dig deeper into my own heritage in the Canadian setting.
Yeah.
So when I was able to talk to people, I was able to tell them that I do have a history, and here it is. So it always takes me back to Guyana, and so that's what I feel that have influenced me. I even have a poem called, Two Places Called Home.